In 1 Corinthians 13, verse 13, that we've been spending some time in the last few weeks, we have these words once again. And now faith, hope, and love abide. These three, and the greatest of these is love. Faith, hope, and love abide. They remain. They stay. But the greatest of these is love. At the beginning of 1 Corinthians 13, Paul notes, if I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have all prophetic powers, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. There is words of Christ where he says, not all who say, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only those who do the will of my Father who is in heaven. Now, what is the will of God? It is love. As is evidenced here and evidenced elsewhere in Scripture. For we have all the other gifts if we speak in tongues, and Paul unpacks this elsewhere as well, noting that I wish you all had the gift of tongues, but I would rather. Love is paramount. Even if we have all faith so as to move mountains, but we do not love, we have nothing. Love is absolutely paramount. And therefore, whatever else might be lacking in the church, love must not be lacking, for love is the will of God. In Romans 13, verse 8, Paul says to owe no one anything but to love one another. 1 Peter 4, 8, with very similar language, to always operate in constant or abiding love, for love covers a multitude of errors or wrongs. Love, love, love. Above all else, love. In John 13, Jesus said to his disciples, a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another. And it's not a new commandment, it's an old commandment. But he's stating it afresh and anew every day in our Christian life, every day in our Christian walk. Hear the new commandment, the commandment again for today. A new commandment to give unto you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you. And Jesus laid down his life for us, even as I have loved you. Love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, because of the love that you have for one another. Love is not only the will of God, in some private way. Love is the will of God for us in community, and love is the evidence that we know God in community. And love is more than words. Think of the book of James. We show our faith by the way that we live. We show that we know God by the love that we have for one another. The love that we have for God. And then Paul here in 1 Corinthians 13 goes on to describe love. Love is patient. It's a word that can mean long-spirited. You hear of one's spirits being crushed. Love does not get crushed quickly or easily. It's long-spirited. Love is patient. Love is kind. This word kind means helpful or useful. Love is useful in bringing others to healing, to redemption, to reconciliation. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. And these words are all connected here. When we seek to have our own way done, when we put ourselves before others, it is rude. It is arrogant. It leads to us being irritable or irritating. Think of the words of Paul in Philippians. To not put your interests above the interest of others, but rather seek the interest of others in the situations you find yourself in. Herein taking on the heart and the mind of Christ, who laid down his life for us. Let us not seek our own way. Love does not rejoice in wrongdoing. The word wrongdoing here is often translated unrighteousness. But often when we think of unrighteousness, we think of immoral things that people do, whether sexually or otherwise. But this word unrighteousness means injustice. James speaks of, and elsewhere in Scripture we find this idea of sin, being not only the bad things we do, but the good things that we ought to have done that we leave undone. That is also sin unto us. And this is a connotation of the word here. It's not only immoral acts or behaviors that one might operate in, but it's also failing to pursue justice and peace with others. It's failing to forgive. It's failing to feed the hungry. It's failing to care for the poor. Love does not rejoice in wrongdoing, in unrighteousness, in injustice, but rather rejoices in that which is true, that which is right, which is peace and justice. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Powerful image that love never fails. Colossians chapter 3, we find these words. Let me read a number of verses here for you. Colossians 3, beginning at verse 1. If you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on the things that are above, not on the things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hid with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, is revealed, then you also will be revealed with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, whatever in you is earthly: fornication, impurity, passion, evil desire, greed, which is idolatry. On account of these things, the wrath of God is coming on those who are disobedient. These are the ways you once followed when you were living that life. But now you must get rid of all such things: anger, wrath, malice, slander, abusive language from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have been stripped of the old self with its practices, and have been clothed, or have clothed yourself with the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge according to the image of its Creator. In that renewal there no longer is Greek or Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all in all. As God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another, and if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other, just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you are called in the one body, and be thankful. Let the Lord lead us into the greatest of these, which is love.